Good to have you here, 3 and Out on this Friday. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, and Ben Troop. Ben's looking fresh cut, shaved up, Ben Troop, on 3 and Out here, man. How's everybody doing?
I'm good. I mean, I got an engagement to go to, Kevin, after this, and I got a text saying, if you don't look halfway decent, I will not be claiming you as my father. So I was like, okay, got it.
That's an important thing to make sure you're there for. We got plenty to get to here over the course of the show. Michael DeRocco, ESPN.com, covers Jacksonville Jaguars. He will join us. We'll get the very latest. It looks like, for whatever reason, we'll not get an announcement on the Jacksonville Jaguars head coaching gig. Obviously, the NFL kind of frowns on breaking news during playoff weekends and may not happen till Monday, but we'll get with Michael DeRocco and say, what's the holdup here? That it's not done. And a lot of people say it's going that direction. Wayne Gandy, former NFL offensive lineman, I believe, with the Falcons, played with the Falcons for a little bit, and some other teams will join us. Host of the Sports Jock Show in Atlanta. We'll talk playoff football with him coming up this weekend as well. Also, Jeff Biggs, KNX News, 97.1 in Southern California. Compass Media Networks will join us, and we'll talk some playoff football with him, obviously with L.A. and San Francisco playing this weekend as well. So we'll get to that, our picks, and more coming up on the show. But start there. We'll hear from Michael DeRocco. Fellas, nothing heard yet, and kind of that standard rule. You don't release good news after a certain point on Friday. You want everybody to talk about it. You only release bad news after, 3, 4 o'clock on a Friday, so it kind of gets buried with the weekend and all that. And as Ben knows, you don't release stuff on playoff weekend. You don't go into Sunday's game saying, and the Jaguars have just signed a new head coach, and oh, by the way, here comes the next playoff games. Typically don't like you to do that, so it looks like we won't know anything until Monday at the earliest out of Jacksonville.
Yeah, it's been a dramatic couple of days when you look at the swings in terms of potentially what people maybe thought was going to happen, a timeline, and don't know. I kind of thought we would have an answer. I kind of thought Byron Leftwich would be named the head coach by now. I think we probably all did. I know fans in Jacksonville are frustrated, maybe getting a little anxious, but doesn't look like then we're going to have some news. I mean, I tend to agree with Kevin. You have the NFL conference championship games this weekend. I don't think you're going to come out on a Saturday, I wouldn't think, and say, or a Sunday when the games are playing, saying, here's our hire. But thought we would have a new head coach in Jacksonville, thought it would be Byron Leftwich. But at this point, I guess Jacksonville's still going through whatever process they're going through.
It seems like they're making a very, very simple procedure very, very hard. And, BJ and Kevin, sometimes, I don't know how Shad Khan is evaluating everything. I mean, I know at first it was you want Byron Leftwich, then you want Byron Leftwich to work with Trent Baalke. Byron Leftwich says, I don't want to work with Trent Baalke. I want to bring in Adrian Wilson. And it seems to be and then the guys that you was even looking at getting hired in other places, what Jacksonville is doing is they're going to put themselves in a situation where Byron Leftwich is no longer want to even be a candidate for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He'll find himself signing with New Orleans. And then what does that do for a guy like Trevor Lawrence, who desperately needs a quarterback? I mean, desperately needs a coach who understands the situation, who has experience in his league and can definitely help him progress in year two. I just think the Jags are just fumbling the ball on this. And I really, really don't understand it. You have a wide open layup. Make the freaking layup, man, and get into the offseason.
Yeah, sometimes the thing that's right in front of you is kind of the thing to do. And as you said, a lot of people are kind of perplexed. It's a move that would be popular with the fan base. I think all the fan base has said, look, we don't really care for the general manager. I think everybody knows that. I think that's what the clown mask was more about Trent Baalke than it was anything else with the Jaguar fan base. Surely the play on the field wasn't anything you want to be excited about, but they didn't like the GM. You want a change to be made there, and I think that's what Jacksonville fans are waiting on. You have a former player who wants to be, obviously everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of people want to be head coaches in the league. We have a former player who's obviously a hot commodity in the league, has dealt with Tom Brady the last couple of years, had Jameis Winston put up huge touchdown numbers, obviously the interceptions, but had Jameis Winston put up huge touchdown numbers when he coached him, and is a prime candidate who I would say, again, he's not going to come out and say it because this is a negotiation. But he really wants the Jacksonville job, I would imagine. You played there for a long time. That is part of your kind of history as a player. Why not be the guy, former player, come in, turn the franchise around? It's a great story. It shouldn't be that hard, right? He wants another guy as GM. I get it. First-time head coaches don't walk in a room and say, I don't want this guy as my GM. That's typically not how it works. If you're a first-time head coach, You don't walk in there and start making demands about who is and who isn't going to be above you in the food chain. However, you have an unpopular GM with your own fan base who are trying to make a statement saying we want him out of here. There is a guy that obviously could fit the bill in Adrian Wilson. It seems like he's also a qualified candidate for the job. Why not make it work? So I think you look at Jacksonville and the fan base is one. BJ, you can speak to the heart of the fan base more for
a lot of frustration.
But a lot of fans are going like, why do you make this so difficult? Like there are people that want. There ain't a lot of people that want to be in Jacksonville. You lost one of your best players ever who said, I don't want to be here, so much so that, got a little injury, can't play, right? And you've seen fan bases floated that saying, if you can't get this turned around, does Trevor Lawrence go to the same doctor as Jalen Ramsey, say, hey, my back's kind of hurting.
Oh, boy.
Get me out. But doesn't Jacksonville have that rep? Look, it's kind of dysfunctional. They don't want to be there.
Byron Leftwich, Adrian Wilson, you have to get it done. And it seemed like maybe we were on the brink or on the horizon of that yesterday, and then no real news. I mean, we'll see what Michael Duraco says in a few minutes, but no real necessarily, I guess, groundbreaking updates that we've seen today in terms of what Jacksonville's doing and when they plan to address this. I mean, is the Senior Bowl next week or the week after? I mean, it's coming up.
Yeah, I saw a great tweet from I think it was Gene Fournette, Florida Times Union, who said, so remember when everybody's like, oh, the Jags just are getting a month head start on everybody.
Right.
Well, so much for that, right? How many guys have been hired already and you're still looking? So it seems the Jags have been dysfunctional as dysfunctional can be. And again, to me, you're trying to build a franchise that people should want to be a part of. Even if you're Shad Khan saying, I want to move this thing to London, like you still want a franchise that people want to be a part of, right? If that's your ultimate end game.
Come on, man. Let's not bring that up.
I'm not trying to bring that up. But, Ben, I mean, if it doesn't matter, you're trying to build a franchise that you can't have free agents. For the longest time, the Atlanta Hawks had that. Hey, man, everybody loves to live in Atlanta. I don't want to play for the Hawks. It's like, why? Hey, love the city, don't want to play for the Hawks. I don't know how many people were like, hey, I love Jacksonville. Oh, Jacksonville's a good city, but how many of your better players have said, I don't want to be here and dipped? You had one of your top draft picks ever, one of your best players ever say, I don't want to play here, and I'm kind of pseudo-faking an injury, so I don't have to play.
And he's about to play for a spot in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but BJ and Kevin, I mean, and there's another thing people ain't really you don't think that kind of stuff hold weight? If I'm a big time receiver like Devontae Adams, you don't think I'm finna call Jalen Ramsey, ask him, hey man, how was it in Jacksonville? Like, they don't give you a lot of confidence for guys in the front office, Tom. Coughlin, I mean, you see how that debacle happened. Urban Meyer, Chris Doyle. It's just I don't get how they go through the evaluation process. Your best players are gone. Calais Campbell, gone. I mean, you talk about Jalen Ramsey, gone. Leonard Fournette thought he couldn't play no more, Super Bowl champion. So they're gonna have to boost the reputation of this organization really, really fast, BJ. And I don't know if anybody other than Byron Leftwich can do that because he can speak from back then and right now.
Yeah, and I think you need to get it done. I would imagine Monday. I mean, you are getting up against it here in terms of when you need a head coach, when you need a general manager. You have to have the direction in place. You have to have the philosophy in place, and kind of don't know what the holdup is. I thought we would see news today, but it looks like, Kevin, as you said, I mean, I would be surprised if there's an official announcement through the weekend with the conference championship games upcoming. But yeah, the Jaguars have to get this done.
Again, we'll get to that coming up with Michael Duraco in just a little bit, but we do have the NFL playoffs this weekend, fellas. Do want to get to a little bit of our picks here early. I got to slide out a little bit early. Got to do some little high school basketball coming up tonight. So I want to get to our picks here with the NFL playoffs. Obviously, this is for the right to go to the Super Bowl, but you got the Bengals and Chiefs, 49ers and Rams coming up on Sunday. Let's start there in the AFC. Joe Burrow taking Cincy on the road again. Can they beat Kansas City and move on to the Super Bowl?
Can they beat Kansas City? Yes. Will they beat Kansas City? I think the Cinderella kind of comes to an end. I think it's a better game than people give it credit for. You look at what Josh Allen was able to do against that Kansas City defense. If you are Joe Burrow, I mean, I'll take his weapons. When you talk about Higgins, when you talk about Mixon, we talk about Chase. And, I mean, Joe Burrow, man, like I said, cocky, confident. He's somewhere right there in the middle. I think it's going to be a back and forth, not going to be a lot of defense, but I think Kansas City at home, and I got to go with them Chiefs.
Yeah, it feels, it feels wrong to go against the momentum of the Bengals. I mean, given the way they've played and what they've done, I mean, to go into Nashville, the number 1 seed, and I don't know that they overall played great. I mean, they gave up 9 sacks. So when you say, "Oh, Cincinnati win," I mean, I don't know that that was their A-plus game. I think they might have a better performance in them, but it's going to take something special to go into Arrowhead, and maybe Joe Burrow's the guy to do it. But I just think you know what you're going to get with Kansas City. They've shown it. They've done it. I will take the Chiefs.
9 sacks, and don't forget the defense forced 3 turnovers there as well. I mean, at one point, obviously late in the game, if the ball doesn't get batted up in the air, Tennessee's still moving down to try to kick a field goal to go ahead and potentially win the football game. So I think that was still out there. Very close game. I'm going to say Kansas City, although our picks last week all usually didn't go very well.
This is good news for Cincinnati.
But I'm going to go Kansas City to go to the Super Bowl. It feels like there's a lot of momentum as they're the best team left, as a lot of the big seeds have been and big players have been knocked out. No Tom Brady, no Aaron Rodgers. So the path seems to be opening up for Kansas City if they get to the Super Bowl even. I'm going to go with Kansas City to win that one. On the other side, 49ers and Rams. Could Matt Stafford go to a Super Bowl 1 year out of Detroit?
Yeah, I just think I just think if the Rams play well offensively, it's going to be really tough for San Francisco to keep up. Now, we said that about, quite frankly, the last 2 games for San Francisco. The 49ers barely did much of anything offensively and got that win in Green Bay. But feels like the Rams are on a mission. Matt Stafford having success in the postseason, the roster balance, the star power. Again, I don't know how many points you can score on San Francisco, but Ben, I will take L.A. to advance to the Super Bowl where they will play at home, but I will take the Rams.
Yeah, the Rams are one of my most dangerous teams. I think that the emergence of Odell Beckham Jr., 6 touchdowns since he left Cleveland, people thought, did he have everything left in the tank? They are still not doubling and tripling the Cooper Kupp, Kevin. That's BJ's favorite receiver all time. I mean, quote me on that. No, I do think it's going to be a good game. I think DeMeco Ryans is calling some of the best defensive football I've seen, and that's what's keeping them in the game. Can Jimmy Garoppolo earn his money this weekend against those Rams? I'm going to say no. I love Debo. Love him and George Kittle. But I just think the Rams got too much offensive firepower. Van Jefferson, Cooper Kupp. You know, you talk about Odell Beckham Jr., you talk about Sony Michel, Cam Akers and those guys. Give me the Rams to make it back to the Super Duper and try to do what the Bucs did last year, host and win the Super Bowl.
And it's not like the Rams defense is, a Johnny-come-lately bunch. They are very good. Also, I think we're putting a lot there on Jimmy Garoppolo. If he makes it, who would have thought Jimmy G could have gone to 2 Super Bowls at the end of the day if he gets it done? But I think, again, if Matt Stafford plays within himself, I think they're better offensively. I think they're as good defensively to make plays. And as you said, if San Francisco gets behind even by 10, do they have enough to come back? They want to run the ball. They want to play defense. Not necessarily a great recipe if you get behind. And we saw L.A. be very aggressive late in the game. A lot of people thought, it's going to overtime. Nope, they went for it. And I think caught Tampa Bay by surprise, and here they are. Chance to go to the Super Bowl. I think we're going to see Chiefs-Rams in that Super Bowl when it's all said and done. We've got so much to get to here on the show. When we come back, Michael DeRocco, ESPN.com, covers the Jacksonville Jaguars, will join us. We'll get the very latest on that coach and potential GM search next here on 3 and Out.
just wanted to ask you about a post that you made earlier.
Good to have you along here. 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, Ben Troop. Glad you're making us a part of your day. We'll know the Super Bowl participants coming up after this weekend. BJ and Ben, will it be Cincinnati making a Super Bowl appearance? Will it be Matt Stafford making a Super Bowl appearance? San Francisco, unlikely source, maybe with Jimmy Garoppolo leading the way? Or the old standby, Pat Mahomes. There's so many great storylines heading in here.
Yeah, I think Jimmy Garoppolo, Ben, might be the most fascinating and interesting. For all the talk about Joe Burrow, for all the talk about obviously Matt Stafford, and of course Pat Mahomes. I think that Jimmy Garoppolo is in an interesting spot because if he wins this weekend, he's in his second Super Bowl. He's in his second Super Bowl, and this is a guy that I think most people would say has not been a great quarterback. This is a guy who probably isn't coming back to the 49ers when you think about Trey Lance. I mean, with Jimmy Garoppolo, is this a unheralded quarterback that's not getting the credit he deserves, or has he been okay and he's been on a great team? How do you kind of evaluate him?
I mean, he's been okay, and I think this is about redemption. And when you think about it, as much praise that we're giving Patrick Mahomes, if Jimmy Garoppolo can complete that throw against him to Emmanuel Sanders, are we praising Jimmy Garoppolo now and saying, hey man, Kansas City got a guy that can throw the football but can't get him over the hump? When Jimmy Garoppolo came out of New England, and he got that big deal, he had only played like 7 or 8 regular season games or games that matter. I'm not mad at Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that when you look at what he does, for that San Francisco offense, he doesn't make a lot. Well, he wasn't making a lot of mistakes. He tried to let Dallas back into the game, but if he can go out there and be efficient, because he's played this team before, they got a good a shot as any. Jimmy Garoppolo is never ever going to be heralded as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But Kevin and BJ, when you talk about a guy that could just be sufficient with the football, keep you ahead of the chains, and don't turn the ball over. I mean, if he could upset the Rams, I mean, dare I say they will be the team to beat in the Super Bowl.
BJ, again, you're talking about a Super Bowl that has an old standby and 3 kind of, I think, quarterbacks trying to write their legacy, and maybe some coaches and some teams trying to write their legacy. I mean, I think Cincinnati, you've talked about this. Joe Burrow, if he just makes it to the Super Bowl, already a legend. It's Cincinnati. I mean, again, you want to win it, but
I mean, he might already be 11.
Well, that's true. You broke the 31-year streak or drought of not being able to win in the playoffs or make the playoffs. So, I think that is already legendary. But again, obviously, Ben has talked about this a lot. You could be a great player. You become a legendary player if you get things done in the postseason and win Super Bowls. And that's what certainly a number of these guys. I mean, could Matt Stafford's entire? I mean, I say entire, but his whole trajectory changes if the Rams make the Super Bowl and he wins it. He was a guy who put up great stats on a losing franchise in Detroit. He goes to the Rams and gets to the Super Bowl and wins it. I mean, you're talking an entirely different discussion around Matt Stafford versus what everybody was saying coming into this year.
Yeah, I think Matt Stafford is the player with the most to gain. When you think about his legacy prior to this season was great regular season quarterback, puts up the stats, but has never won a playoff game and has never had kind of that meaningful win any win in the postseason, but that signature moment that every quarterback that's considered a great of an era has. And not only is he a game away, I know we're looking ahead with Matt Stafford, but let's not look back either. I mean, just could he have beaten Tom Brady in Tom Brady's last game? I mean, could he have ended Tom Brady's career essentially? And I know a lot of that, that kind of reads more dramatic than it is, but I think Matt Stafford went toe-to-toe with Brady in a playoff game in Tampa when they were the defending champs and had the better game, had the more complete game, threw for close to 400 yards and 2 touchdowns. And if you win, I think they're the favorite this weekend. If you win on Sunday, you are talking about a win away from maybe a Hall of Fame career. I don't know that it's that simple. I don't know that it's as simple as, if he wins, regardless of what happens after his Super Bowl win, he's in the Hall of Fame. But, Ben, I think the trajectory would be pointing in that direction. If Matt Stafford, with all the statistical production, all of the, fantasy football numbers, if he adds a Super Bowl championship in a run where he beats Brady and maybe, don't know this, but maybe looking ahead, beats Mahomes too, I think it's a step in that direction.
I think you got to give him, a lot of consideration, BJ, because think about it. His notch was, I'm in Detroit. Somewhere Barry Sanders and Megatron are going, dude, like, how did you get out of there? Because you talk about those are the 3 best, greatest, whatever you want to call it, ever come through Detroit. He leaves Detroit. They pair him with, you traded number 1 overall picks. I mean, Jared Goff goes to Detroit, and obviously Matthew Stafford goes, to LA. And people are thinking, okay, Cooper Kupp, they add Sony Michel, Cam Akers get hurt before the season. They give you Odell Beckham. You talk about Van Jefferson. Can he put up numbers? Well, he is responsible for the 2 best regular season statistical seasons for a receiver, both in Detroit with Megatron and now with Cooper Kupp. BJ, if he wins it, I think he is in because the numbers were there, right? And people always say, he just packed a lot of stats. Got a big, loading up the box score. Can he do it with a team around him? Every player on that team believes in Matt Stafford. Every player thinks that he's good enough to go out there and win him a Super Bowl. And you mentioned it. If Tom Brady's last game and Matthew Stafford was the other quarterback, he's going to be on the winning side of the legacy like Nick Foles and Eli Manning. There's only 2 other guys can say that. So, but he got to finish the job. It can't just be beating Tom Brady. You got to finish the job.
And again, I think that's, to me, what's fascinating about this entire weekend is just the storylines that we're going to get. Because if it's Brady and Rodgers this weekend in the NFC, I mean, you're talking about obviously one who's generationally and maybe all time to go. One who, if he goes to another Super Bowl and wins it, Aaron Rodgers is certainly up there in the stratosphere of quarterbacking. But you don't have that. You have Matt Stafford and you have Jimmy G. Go back to the beginning of the year and say, throw out your top 10 quarterbacks in the National Football League right now. Are you putting Matt Stafford? Are you putting Jimmy G on that list? Maybe
Stafford, maybe, but probably not. And Jimmy G, no.
So, and here
are you putting Burrow at that point?
No.
And here, all 3 of those guys are within a sniff of the Super Bowl. Now,
Kevin, I will say this too, though. I mean, the NFL would love to have, the GOAT versus the GOAT, like the GOAT, the greatest of all time, versus GOT, the greatest of their era. I guess you can call, Aaron Rodgers that, but it's good for the league because now you're profiling younger quarterbacks. Like the league, you want the younger guys to kind of show. Joe Burrow, 2nd year, not hurt, went in the AFC Championship game. Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously this is his last hurrah in San Francisco. Can I right the wrongs? Matthew Stafford finally on a good team. So you got some guys that, I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo has been here before. Matthew Stafford hasn't even made the playoffs. And you talk about Joe Burrow, he's too young to understand anything else. And obviously Patrick Mahomes. So profiling young quarterbacks, profiling quarterbacks who are more like the veteran savvy quarterbacks than Matthew Stafford and Garoppolo. But hey, man, this is what you want. The best team, the last 4 teams standing. If Joe Burrow can get in that thing against a guy like Matthew Stafford and win it, we already can't really deal. I mean, BJ, let's face it. Joe Burrow is a cocky dude that's likable. That's what he is. He's cocky, but you like him, right? I mean, you can deal with his personality. We'll see what happens, man. But this is why you play. I think the last 4 teams standing are the best 4 teams, but there can only be 2 after this weekend. We will see.
Again, we've got more to come here on 3 and Out. Wayne Gandy, former NFL great offensive lineman. We'll hear from him. He'll join us when we return. We're talking about these matchups. Next is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here, 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Glad you are with us. Big weekend upcoming in the National Football League. And joining us here, former NFL great offensive lineman and now on the Sports Jock Show in Atlanta, Wayne Gandy. Joining us here on 3 and Out. Wayne, welcome to the show. How are you?
How are you fellas doing? Glad to be on with you today.
Hey, man, we're glad you are with us, and we get down to it. And you look at the NFL playoffs here, conference championship weekend, and just of the quarterbacks, the storylines are absolutely amazing from 3 guys who are trying to write legacies and 1 guy who's trying to kind of enter that conversation as, hey, I'm the greatest maybe of this era, not named Tom Brady.
Well, when you look at the playoffs, you got to tip your hat to, especially last week. The games were so exciting. It made me want to put the pads back on. And now you have this young group of quarterbacks, as far as Mahomes trying to establish himself as the new sheriff in town. Burrow, what an outstanding job in just 2 years to get the Bengals to this point. And then Matt Stafford, what a storyline that is for him, and so quickly to move from Detroit out to L.A. to get this team to the Super Bowl at home, possibly come Sunday.
And with LA, Wayne, you're talking about a franchise that has been successful, but this team, I know you started your career there, kind of a super team with all the talent they have. Are they maybe the favorite of the 4 teams remaining at this point, given all the talent they have, or do you still think out of the 4, maybe it's Kansas City?
Well, being a Ram and pulling for the Rams, I definitely feel like they can get the job accomplished. Their thing is that they're going against a team in the 49ers that has complete confidence that they can win this game. They've won both games this season. They won a tight contest that they needed to win. In the end of the season, they have the defensive line to harass Matt Stafford. When the Rams, as we know, with Beckham and Kupp, they want to throw the ball around. So they definitely walk into this game with a why not attitude. For the Rams, I think you got to try to take the pressure off of Stafford and get Sony Michel and Akers going and try to keep the offense balanced, because we've seen in both contests this year that you're not going to be able to just go back, drop back, and throw the ball against Bosa and Armstead and that defensive line.
And Wayne, when you think about a team like the Rams, who they've been in this situation before, just had a different quarterback, I think sometimes when you think about what's the best strategy, you mentioned, is it running the football? Is it throwing the football? What do you think is going to be the best strategy for them defensively with a guy like Jalen Ramsey, for which lockdown corner, but I think Mike Evans exposed him in a way that I don't think they want to put him one-on-one all day against Deebo Samuels.
Yeah, when you watch them defensively take on this 49ers, the 49ers do it the old school style, as they say now. They make you defend the whole field. They run the ball at you. They run it wide. They run it inside. Guys after the catch are so talented. And that's the thing. The Rams, their defense with Von Miller and Donald, they're kind of set up more for you to be finesse. And the 49ers consistently, as we've seen in the playoffs against Dallas, against Green Bay, they're going to make it ugly. They're not trying to score 30 points. They're trying to shorten the game. So it's going to be, can the defensive front of the Rams hold the run game? Because I think that's what they're going to get a heavy dose of. And how do they defend Kerry Kittles down the middle of the field? Not so much Deebo and Jalen Ramsey, but more about tackling and being able to get this team down in space.
Wayne, as you talk about that game, this dichotomy of throwing the ball versus running the ball, and do you have to be a dominating run team, or do you just need to do it effectively enough to get it done? Obviously, San Francisco does it probably better than most left here in the playoffs, but it used to be, hey, you win championships with defense and a running game. Is that necessarily true, or do you win championships with defense and a competent, maybe not a dominating run game?
Well, I still believe, as the old saying says, the defense, and we see that in the playoffs, the teams that are still alive defensively have a lot of talent. But I think the thing that sometimes gets missing when you pass the ball is the balance of the game. you quickly get away from being balanced. And once that happens, you kind of fall into maybe what the defense is built around. When you look at the 49ers, a lot of teams, they let them off the hook. The Green Bay went out. First series was running the ball dominantly and then got away from that and started trying to throw. I think in these games that we're going to watch, if you're even someone like the Cincinnati Bengals, hey, Kansas City, they kind of run as a gimmick. They don't actually run the ball as something to actually threaten you. So it gives you a chance to defend the pass a little better. But I think in the Rams 49ers game, the Rams definitely, from even the last game where they sacked Stafford like 5 or 6 times, they're going to have to find some run game, because right now they're seen as a big play pass team. And even against the Bucs, you look at a couple of those plays, it was just broken plays that allowed them to get down the field.
A lot of great pass rushers left in the playoffs. What type of pressure is going to be on these offensive lines here on Sunday?
Tremendous. It's going to be a lot of pressure. I mean, we got some of the better rush ends and inside 3 techniques, as I said, across the board. We got guys Hall of Fame bound on some of these teams, and I think the one thing about it is that it's going to be about the coordinators making sure that they are aware, chipping on the outside, chipping through the middle, not just abandoning, especially on these tackle situations, just letting these guys run free. Now, as I said, you do that with the run game, but you also do that with the short pass game. So these offensive linemen don't have to sit back in those 7-step drops and throw the ball. So the best way is to try to drive the ball and stay out of 3rd and long.
Wayne, I mean, even sticking with those pass rushes, people was like, why are you bringing a guy like Von Miller, who obviously is at the end of his career? You see the type of impact plays he made against a guy like Tom Brady. When you got a guy like Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey on the back end, those guys are paid for games like this, right? I mean, obviously they're one of the best, if not the best at their position. Definitely Aaron Donald might be the best defensive player in the league. But you paid them to make impact plays in games like this, correct?
Yeah, this is what you brought him in for. You was hoping to get to this point, the championship round, and now you're looking for Von Miller to carry your team. You're looking for him to be the best defensive player. You're looking for Jalen Ramsey to come up with that big interception. You bring Von Miller in to try to create the lack of double team so that Donald can work inside. I think that's why when defensive pressure comes in balance. I know I use that word a lot, but it's the same on the defense as it is the offense. You got to be able, from both sides of the field, inside and outside, be able to get different kinds of pressure. It's not all about sacks. It's about making the quarterback move from his spot and throw the ball under duress. And these teams that are left definitely have the personnel, but you are right. This is why you make that trade. You pushed all your chips to get Von Miller to this point, and now you should be expecting to find that 1-2 games left in the season that you're trying to get the championship.
Wayne, people always talk about Tom Brady, his longevity, LeBron James and him defying, father time, and then there's Andrew Whitworth. He will not ever stop playing football. He's going to play until they make him leave. How is he doing it at age 40?
A lot of rest. I was 39 when I retired, and I can tell you those last 3-4 years, you have to change as a lot of guys document and let you know, not just your eating, but your schedule. It's a lot of ice and going home and watching TV and waiting for the next day to come, because the body, it's all about the healing. It's all about how fast can you recuperate and perform next week. So when you look at Whitworth, especially out there on the edge, sometimes, we've seen him as he gets older, gets a little handsy, but he's done a great job and been an anchor on that left side, coming over from Cincinnati. to provide Matt Stafford. I think not just the protection, but he seems to be a big-time leader for that team.
Wayne Gandy joining us here on 3 and Out. Wayne, appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Oh, anytime, fellas. Thank you for having me.
Hey, appreciate it. Wayne Gandy joining us here, former offensive lineman with the Rams, here on the 3 and Out, and he talked about the importance there. But as you're right, Ben, how about Tom Brady playing at his age? Whitworth there is 40 years old, playing tackle. Like that's equally very important. And those, as you know, Ben, those guys coming off the edge, they aren't getting any younger. At some point, you wake up, man, these guys are getting faster and bigger as he gets older. But yeah, obviously, line play going to be so huge in all these games coming up on Sunday.
I mean, I think sometimes, Kevin and BJ, we do get caught up in the glitz and the glamour, right? You hear Jalen Ramsey, that's a sexy name. Von Miller, that go to sexy name. Cooper Kupp, that go to sexy names, right? And you forget, Whitworth been doing this thing for a long time, and he's not just in the league because he can do it. He's doing it at the high level. He's one of the top left tackles, by the way, in the league. And another name to throw out there that hasn't been there, Ernest Jones. Yeah, Ernest Jones from our neck of the woods. He is active this week. So you talk about getting a young guy back in a game of this magnitude. How much better does he make that Rams defense? A guy that is a heat-seeking missile. So yeah, adding the old vet and Whitworth, and obviously adding the young fresh legs. Ernest Jones, man, wishing him nothing but the best.
Yeah, it's a great point. Former Ware County star, Waycross native Ernest Jones, really athletic, instinctive as a linebacker. And you think about that defense. I look, the quarterbacks, Kevin, you're right. We're always going to talk about the quarterbacks, but I think a lot of these games this weekend, or a good chunk of these games, are going to be determined by what happens at the line of scrimmage. These edge rushers, can they win or not? Can the offensive line keep their quarterbacks standing up?
Yeah, and that's something you mentioned a little bit last segment. Case in point for Cincinnati and Joe Burrow. I mean, they won. It was miraculous. They made the plays when they needed to. Can you get sacked that much?
No.
And bank on the fact that your defense is going to get 3 turnovers? Well, a couple of which were tipped and kind of fell in your lap. Are you going to bank on the fact that you're going to get those against a team like Kansas City? Because if you don't, it could be a long afternoon. And I think winning, as you said, Ben and BJ on the show, both of y'all, winning can cover up a lot. And you just kind of like shruff it off. But if Joe Burrow gets sacked that many times and that defense gets no turnovers, or maybe just 1 turnover, I don't know that they're going to win or even have a chance to win.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to possessions, and at the end of the day, you don't want to give Kansas City any extra possession. We'll see.
Yeah, so we got that coming up this weekend. We'll talk more about that. We'll have Take 3 coming up around the corner as well. Jeff Biggs will join us coming up in hour number 2 as well. We'll talk about the 49ers and Rams and that ball game coming up on Sunday afternoon as well. Much more to come. Hit us up on Twitter. We'd love to hear from you here on this Friday afternoon at Pigskin Radio. At Pigskin Radio. Of course, we're streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Check out our YouTube channel at ESPN Coastal. Much more to come here on this Friday. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here on this Friday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you were with us. Plenty to get to still on the show. Jeff Biggs will join us coming up in hour number 2. Also, take a look at some of the top 10 quarterbacks of this kind of generation since 2000 up until now. We've seen a number of them in the playoffs, a number of them now moving and riding off into the sunset. BJ and Ben, so we'll get to that coming up next hour.
That was tough. I mean, that was
a tough exercise to do. I, of course, have got a dip getting ready for a little basketball later tonight. Benedictine and Jenkins, going to be a good one. Hear it on ESPN Radio Savannah, AM 1400, FM 104.3, ESPNcoastal.com. I understand seating very limited due to COVID in there, so best place to do will be listen to us in the ball game tonight. Should be a fun one, but I got to go get ready for that. Get my prep on for that ball game that's now been moved up to 6 o'clock. Was originally a 7:30 tip, now 6 o'clock.
I was listening to one of the games you did maybe a couple back, and Benedictine defensively. I mean, I know you think about basketball. Well. I know you think about basketball. You think about the scoring and 3-point shooting and all that. But they held an opponent to like a couple of made shots in the first quarter.
It was less than 10 points in the first half, 2 in the first quarter, and that was on a defensive goaltending. So they went a whole quarter, did not allow a basket. But they've been playing really well, undefeated in region play right now. So this is a region contest tonight. So will be a good one between Jenkins and Benedictine. And again, BC trying to stay undefeated in region, which hard to believe, but you're already getting down to that point where you're starting to look at region tournament coming up right around the corner and potentially starting to talk about state playoffs again at this point. So we'll have a little basketball for you coming up 6 o'clock as soon as you guys are done here on 3 and Out. Obviously, I can't teleport from here to the gym. So
wait, what?
In 1 second.
At least not yet. At least not yet. Not yet.
You got to get some gear. Got to get there, get set up. Get my mind right.
No. If Bezos wants to start teleporting, we gonna start teleporting. That's just how it goes.
Who's teleporting?
If Bezos wants to teleport, he already went to space. We'll start teleporting.
Was that him or was that Elon Musk? I'm sure it's either one of them. But
listen, it's a bunch of super duper wealthy guys that want to leave Earth. That's who they are.
Do you have a desire to leave Earth?
I do not.
Okay.
I do
BJ,
not.
do you have a desire to leave Earth?
No desire at all.
BJ said he ain't went past Alabama yet. He ain't trying to leave
I mean, the
Earth.
furthest west I've been is Mobile, Alabama, man.
So
I'm not quite ready.
So you're not ready to go to Mars, be on the first in line to go ahead to Mars or anything?
No, I mean.
Okay, I mean, I'm not going to sign up on the first one.
But the second or third, you're good to go. But you do wild things. Weren't you saying last year on the show you were going to ride a bull? Like
I wouldn't mind. Now, as I've gotten older, my wife would probably talk about it. But there was a time where I'd be like, it would be worth trying it once. I'm not saying I want to be a professional rodeo guy, but it would be worth trying it once. The skeleton.
Yeah, it'd be worth watching you once. Do the rodeo and the skeleton. Then I can just watch.
I would feel more comfortable with the skeleton due to the fact that that's not a 1,000-pound animal saying, "Get off my back." No. Go with
what about just feet first, like a luge? Would you like me to be a luger?
Kevin, listen, Kevin. As we get older, we want to start. We got some weird things you want to do. Whatever you want to do, I support you in it. But listen, when people go, "Hey man, what happened to 3 and Out?" Well, it's 2 for the money now because Kevin went down that hill, and we'll give you an update.
I mean, I think it would be fun. Maybe it would be stupid. I don't know. But I mean, I think it'd be fun. It'd be like an adrenaline rush, right?
Kevin,
that's why you ride roller coasters and stuff.
Kevin, listen, you should not be trying to go viral at your age, sir. Don't be trying to go viral.
Not trying to, but I've already done it with my 35.5-yard dash. We'll come back. Take 3 around the corner, 3 and Out. Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We're streaming live at ESPNcoastal.com.
Hour 2 of 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. BJ Bennett, Ben Troop, Kevin Thomas stepping away for some basketball a little bit later this afternoon. In our Savannah market, you'll have Benedictine and Jenkins. 4 o'clock, though, it is time to take 3 here on the program. We will bring in Christian Gokel. Christian, a lot of radio work for you today, man. I mean, you're double dipping on the shows.
Listen, I appreciate y'all having me, especially after the very nice welcome you had for Second Down.
Yeah,
as we
well,
started
I didn't
the show.
I didn't realize I did that. Like, you have to kind of explain to me.
Yeah, well, because nobody cares about the little
Oh,
show
cool.
before you guys, right?
Whoa,
You just
what
come in,
do you
open
do?
doors,
What do
let
you do,
fans
Christian?
keep
What do you
blowing.
do,
As we're trying to
Christian?
do an auditory medium.
I understand
So,
that.
yeah, no, it's fine. Just don't worry about little Second Down. We're 1 less than you, literally. 2 less hours. We'll just keep doing us.
I'm not standing for any of that slander at all.
What's the slander? You guys are the big dogs.
No.
We just exist.
You hear all this, Ben?
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I don't concur with that. I'm usually in the same framework. Whatever. But Christian, I want to know what BJ did. Like, what did he do?
Okay, so let's talk about it.
Well, so much for take 3.
So we started Second Down today, and we explained this at the beginning of Second Down. For those of you who don't know, we are in the main studio. Attached to the main studio is an enclosed off second studio.
It's the mini studio.
Yeah, where we do a lot of production. There's a glass window where you can see into the main studio, and there's a door that allows you to get in there. And most of the time, the door stays shut. So Kevin was in there. It can get a little warm in there. So there's a fan in there going, and Kevin's in there working. BJ, as we started Second Down, walked in there, opened the door, kind of stood in the doorway, had a conversation with Kevin, which was already a little bit annoying, but then just walks away and leaves the door wide open. So not only could I hear the fan, I could hear everything Kevin was listening to inside the studio.
Okay.
So it's just little old Second Down.
Here's what I'm saying. I apologize for that. That's not good. That was disruptive and probably didn't help the sound quality.
It's not the only time this happened. Like, Kevin will come in and ask me questions while I'm on the air.
Yeah, he's done that to me too. What I'm saying, what if this was not the case, but what if I didn't close the door because I didn't want to make the door closing noise?
I would rather have 0.5 seconds of door closing noise than just continuous stream of fan noise.
I mean, I get it, but to be fair, I wasn't fully in the mini studio, so I wasn't aware of the blizzard Kevin had. Well, that's not helping either.
Exactly. You're just standing there with the door open.
My fault.
All right.
On that note.
Take 1 with another Super Bowl win. Could you make an argument that Pat Mahomes would already be one of the 5 best quarterbacks of all time?
All right, that sounds out there. Now, I have to give you some credit because we have debates about what we're going to talk about on the show later throughout the day on the and in the office. And with a lot of the Pat Mahomes stuff with rankings and this and that, you were a little higher on him initially than me. And my first thought was, man, that's kind of. But then when you look at the stats, when you look at the success. And I think most prominently an 8-2 record in the playoffs right now, it's really remarkable. And under this hypothetical scenario, you would move to 10-2 in the playoffs, which is pretty unheard of. And you would have 2 Super Bowl championships to go along with 2 All-Pros, an MVP. And if you were to talk it out, again, I know it sounds great, but if you were to talk it out, who would be, if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, who would have undeniably, without argument, a better resume than Mahomes? Brady, Peyton Manning, I think.
Woody?
Yeah.
Same amount of Super Bowls, big dog.
I understand, but that's not the only. But I think you would probably put Joe Montana in there still. I think you would. Then you start to get into kind of some of the,
Is Terry Bradshaw,
John Elway, Terry Bradshaw,
4.
Johnny Unitas. Then you get into
Troy Aikman.
Troy Aikman.
Who, by the way, can I say this?
Go ahead.
Troy Aikman's still yoked.
Okay, that's good news.
Check out Troy Aikman's Instagram page.
I will. I think it, and again, totality of resume, like you couldn't because he doesn't have the longevity. But if you're just talking about like a Madden rating, as former producer Jim used to say, like a Madden rating, give every player throughout history a rating. You get a 91, 93, 95, 90. I don't think it's absurd. I don't think I would have him necessarily in the top 5, but I think you could theoretically, from a Madden rating standpoint, make an argument. Yes.
I would have him in the top 5. He's definitely in consideration of going. He's writing his own resume right now, but I think that's kind of like what we do now. We're a year removed from, 2 years removed from if Patrick Mahomes beat Tom Brady last year in the Super Bowl, is he already considered one to go? No. If Aaron Rodgers would have beat Tom Brady. No, these guys are incredible football players, and they have an incredible resume. I remember at one point, Russell Wilson with the back-to-back Super Bowls. People, oh, dude, he had a chance to beat Peyton Manning one year, and obviously if he just hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch, he goes back-to-back. I think these guys are just writing their own resumes, and they doing their own thing. But to say top 5, look, man, you have some incredible and let's face it, BJ, when you talk about Bart Starr, there are guys we saw and did not see. Unitas is guys we heard about but did not see. So I just think that at the end of the day, he's already, one of the best to ever do it. But top 5, you got to kind of pump your brakes on top 5.
It's tight. I think if he wins, he's certainly top 10. And there's a bunch of guys who have 2. And there's a bunch of guys who got 2 pretty quick in their careers. And then you have the guys like John Elway, who I'd have in my top 5.
Because you make a theoretical
for sure,
case.
1,000%.
Okay.
Like I said, my favorite stat is he's been in the league. Every year he has started in the league, he's gone to the AFC Championship game. And he's 2 of the losses that he has. Actually, yeah, both losses he has in the playoffs to Tom Brady. He's 8-2 in the playoffs. Both times he lost to Tom Brady. Like, I mean, I can't fault anybody for losing to Tom Brady. Even though Eli Manning doesn't do that.
And neither does Nick
That's
Foles.
an interesting angle, too, for our upcoming quarterback ranking.
All right, take 2. What will the demand be for upcoming free agent quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo?
I think it's going to be modest. I really do. And I know he signed the huge contract in San Francisco, and you're talking about, again, theoretically we don't know, but you're talking about a quarterback that could have 2 trips to the Super Bowl, maybe even a Super Bowl championship on his resume. Now, if that happens, I think that's a game changer. I mean, if you win the Super Bowl, I guess to clarify my answer, I'm operating under the pretense that does not happen. I don't expect that to happen, but I didn't expect them to beat Dallas or Green Bay either. But if let's say they lose this weekend, I think it will be relatively underwhelming. And I think a lot of that is because we've seen a shift not only to prioritizing drafting quarterbacks, but playing them right away. I mean, now it's no longer, we're going to draft you, and maybe you get a couple of years like Aaron Rodgers, or you get to prepare like Pat Mahomes. Nope, you're playing right away. And I think a lot of teams look at it when they need a franchise quarterback as, yes, free agency is there, but I'm going to do it through the draft. And you have examples of free agent quarterbacks, of course, but I don't know that Garoppolo, even with the postseason success, has the individual metrics, the individual proficiency in an era of advanced stats where that goes into a lot of the front office thinking to warrant a massive, massive contract or kind of multiple teams vying for him. Look, he has a good resume. If you're a starting quarterback in the league, you're always going to have value. Ben, I know you've told me that. They set the market for contracts. But I think compared to other quarterbacks who are still relatively young, who maybe have had postseason success and have been multi-year starters, I think it'll be relatively modest.
I think he'll get more attention than you think, because there's something about a guy who had, redeemed himself. Most guys ain't make it to the playoffs, let alone put themselves in a position to go to 2 Super Bowls. And Jimmy Garoppolo is really what the norm of the National Football League is. If we get caught up in the Aaron Rodgers and the Tom Brady's, that's not the norm. That's the exception. Most of the guys in the league, they ain't going to do nothing that's going to wow you. But I think about Houston, I think about the Saints or the Raiders or the Broncos or Carolina, Detroit, Washington football team, the Giants. It's a bunch of teams that can utilize what he does. If anything else, he brings stability. He gives you a guy that understands how to win consistently. Now, I know a lot of that has to do with Sean McVay and that defense, but I'm not going to fault a guy for having success in the league, even if he's not the best of the bunch. But yeah, BJ, he's gonna have some suitors, because at the end of the day, if he can potentially make your team better, make your quarterback room better, and you don't got to give him big money, and he's a veteran, I think you snag him. I think it's about 10, maybe 15 teams that's definitely gonna be calling his line, because most guys do not have the postseason resume he has. So yes, he's definitely gonna get some pretty good attention.
I thought Mina Kimes made a really good point. He's the guy with the 49ers. He's the guy in college where you do the project and he just signs that he helped at the end. He's a pretty good looking guy. He's got the teeth, he's got the hair, he smiles, he's got the jawline. He can just show up, smile, and just kind of pass off to everybody that he actually had something to do with it. He has absolutely zero to do with it. If Deebo Samuel isn't on that team, I don't know that they made the playoffs. right? Certainly don't win a couple of games. Jimmy Garoppolo is fine. I don't know if he's any better or worse than Kirk Cousins, right? But he's not a
Exactly.
he's not a
Like
top
you said
20 quarterback in the NFL. So I don't
there.
think, like much like you said, BJ, the demand with young talent. I think teams, I mean, literally his team just drafted a quarterback in the top 10 this
I mean,
past
that may be
year.
the ultimate point right
His
there.
team drafted his replacement. And I know people say, well, they did that for Aaron Rodgers too, but his team drafted his replacement. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is great. I don't think the demand will be very high. To Ben's point, if you're a team and all of a sudden you're sitting there looking like, damn, I need a quarterback. Yeah, do you call Jimmy Garoppolo? Sure. Is he your first option? Never. Never. All right, take 3. Better defense, 49ers or Rams?
I'm going to take this. I know we can answer questions a number of different ways. Like you could say consistency. I think when they're at their best, that's how I'm going to answer it. When they're at their best, I'm going to say the Rams. I just think the reason for that is you have the most unblockable, unstoppable player, maybe defensively, that I've ever seen in Aaron Donald. And yes, you have Jalen Ramsey and Von Miller and stars all over the place. Excited to see Ernest Jones this weekend. But I think when they're at their best, San Francisco might be more consistent. When they're at their best, it doesn't get any better than the Rams. So I will say LA. I mean, I understand both arguments. There's no wrong answer here. But I think peak LA is better than peak San Francisco.
I'm going to go with the 49ers because the thing about it is right? DeMeco Ryans, he's a schemer. The scheme that he's putting together. Christian, you can appreciate this. When you watch Fred Warner play linebacker, that is how you play the position. Meaning, I don't come off the field. I'm everywhere you need me to be. I don't miss tackles. I get there on the blitz. But then you talk about Bosa and what he brings to the table. Look, just when you flinch, up sack. And I just think that, yes, BJ, they don't got the, quote, star power that the Rams have. But if they don't have there aren't too many people that's going to go up to Lambeau and do that to freaking Aaron Rodgers with Devontae Adams. You're not doing that to him. And they was like, nope. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo in that offense they had a case of the drops. Everybody, Debo, George Kittle, and they still won. You know why? Because most of them was like, we're gonna keep y'all boys some extra possession. So I like what DeMeco Ryans are doing. Fred, one of those guys are getting it done. I mean, Josh Norman played for freaking San Francisco, man. I mean, I'm just saying, give me them 49ers to go out there and get it done.
Josh Norman's 87 years old. All right. Which team does Aaron Donald play for?
The Rams.
Okay, it's the Rams. Like, and just think about like the fantasy kind of football that they're playing on defense. It's like, okay, I need a defensive tackle. Who'd be your first guy that comes to mind? Aaron Donald. All right, I need a pass rusher. Who's the first guy that comes to mind? Von Miller. All right, I need a lockdown corner ball hog. Who's the first guy that comes to mind? Oh, Jalen Ramsey. They have all 3 of those guys. It's clearly the Rams. And side note, I'll say this. This is an absolutely atrocious matchup for Jimmy Garoppolo. Guy who can't move. That pocket is just going to collapse on him from both sides. And then when he's going for his first option, and if Deebo Samuel thought he was moving around a lot last week to different positions, can't wait to see what Kyle Shanahan does with him this week, trying to hide him from Jalen Ramsey. It is an atrocious matchup. I wouldn't be surprised if the 49ers get held to 13 or less points again this week.
Well, they've done that in one. So, I mean, we'll see. But, yeah, different situation, needless to say, this weekend. Thank you, Christian. That's Take 3. We'll come back. We've been talking about it all afternoon. Top 10 quarterbacks this generation. We'll say since 2000. I have Kevin's list. We'll talk about it. We'll discuss it next. 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It is 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. BJ Bennett alongside Ben Troop. Hope you're doing well. We are glad to have you with us on a Friday afternoon. And Ben, we've been talking about it around the office all day. It's been the talking point. Your top 10 quarterbacks of the last generation. And we're doing this because you think about Big Ben retiring, some speculation that Tom Brady might be retiring, maybe even Aaron Rodgers considering it. So we figured this would be a good time to have kind of an all-time discussion. And by all-time, we're going to keep it to this generation. And we thought maybe since 2000, and you had some guys who technically played in 2000, like I believe had a couple of greats, Troy Aikman, Warren Moon, technically played a year in 2000, but we're going to keep it to guys who played a substantial portion of their career in 2000. Kevin had to leave early to get ready for some basketball, but I will give you his list. He left us his list, and the way you kind of phrased it in the show meeting, just best. Your best quarterbacks of the last 20 years or so, since 2000, 22 years. Kevin had Tom Brady number 1. He's going to be mad that I'm going 1 to 10. But he had Tom Brady number 1, Peyton Manning number 2, Drew Brees number 3, Kurt Warner number 4, Big Ben number 5, Russell Wilson at 6, Pat Mahomes at 7, Aaron Rodgers at 8, Brett Favre at 9, Donovan McNabb at 10. So Kevin's top 10 quarterbacks of this generation: Brady, Peyton Manning, Brees, Warner, Big Ben, Russell Wilson, Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Favre, and McNabb.
Wow, man, that's a good list. I mean, that's a really, really good list. I mean, he got some guys that I definitely have on mine. I mean, I'm gonna go from 10 to 1. And I know people are gonna think I'm biased when I say this, but we talking about best, right? We talking about best. My number 10 is Steve McNair. Steve McNair won an MVP during the time of Brady. I mean, you talk about Peyton Manning, Donovan McNabb, Drew Brees, Philip, all these guys in the league, and this guy out of Alcorn State was co-MVP with who? Peyton Manning. And I think they had, and the only Super Bowl appearance by the Tennessee Titans against those Rams was Steve McNair. My number 9 is Eli Manning. Look, one team, BJ, 2 Super Bowl championships. I'm sorry, he wasn't the best thing to look at during the regular season, but under that much scrutiny, and to still get 2 super dupers, something has to be said for that. My number 8 is Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner won 2 Super Bowls, one as a starter and one as a backup, where he was a backup in with the Giants. You know, he's the one that told Tom Coughlin, you need to start this young boy, Eli Manning. And he nurtured it. Obviously, that's a great relationship. And obviously the rest is history. My number 7, Big Ben. Man, look, 2 Super Bowls, won a Super Bowl in his second year, went to an AFC championship. His rookie year, the reason why guys like Jerome Bettis, who won a Super Bowl in his hometown of Detroit, you got to respect it. And he's a lifer. 18 years, one place. I mean, you got to respect it. Number 6, I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes, man. I'm sorry, man. I mean, BJ, been in the league 5 years. I mean, the first time I go out there, I'm the regular season MVP. I've only been to AFC championship games the last 4 seasons. I mean, I don't know how good this kid. I hope he stays healthy, but I mean, resumes don't come. Like most guys don't make it to the playoffs. The championship game's been to 4 straight. I got to give it to him. My number 5, Aaron Rodgers. Ladies and gentlemen, you might not like the diva in him, but as far as like playing football, I mean, Aaron Rodgers found a way to go out there and get it done, BJ. I mean, I know I call him a diva. I talk trash about him with love if he wanted to come to Atlanta. I mean, sorry, Matty Ice. If he wants to come, you got to move over. My number 4 is Brett Favre. People, Brett Favre originally got drafted by Atlanta, and the guy that drafted him, the draft expert, said he'll never play a down of football. What? One of the greatest to ever do it. And I know that Aaron Rodgers is number 5. The reason why I got Brett Favre number 4, Aaron Rodgers, 1 Super Bowl appearance. Brett Favre, 2 Super Bowl appearances, and obviously he won 1. My number 3 is Drew Brees. BJ, I remember Drew Brees coming out of Purdue. I did not think he was gonna become this. Like all these records he have, New Orleans is a perennial respectable team and a perennial playoff contender because of 1, Drew Brees, and obviously number 2, Peyton Manning, and number 1 is to go Tom Brady. Honorable mentions though, Philip Rivers and Donovan McNabb. And I know I ain't get Russell Wilson in there, but this is my top 10.
Very similar. You and I, very similar. I think my list closer to yours than Kevin's, and it's really hard. I mean, as you said, the guys you leave out, you just feel bad leaving them out. But I'll give you I'll go 10-1. I went Russell Wilson 10. And I know some people will say, well, he played with the Legion of Boom, but look, they were a part of he was a big reason for a mini dynasty, and he may be leaving Seattle, but you think about what he was able to do, a bad play call away from having another Super Bowl. But you're talking about a consistent leader, winner, production, dual threat. But I like guys that do it on the big stage, do it in the spotlight. Russell Wilson did that. And listen, for everybody who said, oh, he had Marshawn Lynch, Legion of Boom. Well, I mean, Troy Aikman had Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin. I mean, Tom Brady's had Gronk. I mean, look, great players play with great players. Steve Young, Jerry Rice. I mean, great players play with great players. So I have Russell Wilson 10. Number 9 for me, Eli. And same thing, big stage, he's at his best. And I know he had a lot of interceptions sometimes during the regular season, but when it mattered most, and did it against Brady twice, when it mattered most, you're talking about a guy that was elite. So I have Eli in there. Number 8 for me, Kurt Warner, probably is a little bit underappreciated just because all the great quarterbacks, Ben, you had come through kind of the early to mid 2010s, but I don't know, you go back some of his work in the late 90s as well, so maybe you drop him down a spot or two because of that. But Kurt Warner, number 7, Big Ben, and I think it's a great point you mentioned, like Kobe, like Chipper Jones, you do it all with one team.
That is, by the way, yes.
Yeah, that is really impressive to do it all with one team, and the pressure that's there. I mean, it's just really hard to do it in one city, one organization. So bonus points to Big Ben for that. I'll go Favre 6, and Brett Favre, huge numbers. I mean, he's going to throw some interceptions. I know sometimes you've said that's not necessarily a terrible thing. That's a sign of having a great arm. But I do have Rodgers ahead of Favre. I know there was some disagreement in the office about that. But because of the picks, maybe I'll drop him down a spot or two. I'll go Mahomes 5. I think he's already there. And if you win another Super Bowl, I think he moves up another spot. Maybe another 2 spots, because he is 8-2 in the playoffs all time. Last 4 years, he's been the starter in Kansas City. Each of those 4 years, the AFC Championship game. Number 4 for me, Aaron Rodgers. And we'll see what the future holds. Is he going to come back to Green Bay? Is he going to retire? Could he go to Denver? I know some people have said maybe a disappointment to a certain extent in Green Bay because you've only gotten one, but the production, he's been incredibly prolific. They've been close, a lot of close losses in the postseason, but I'll go Aaron Rodgers 4. Drew Brees for me 3, has the Super Bowl, has the iconic all-time, production that very few people will ever be able to match. Was a consistent playoff quarterback. So Drew Brees 3. And then, I think the top 2 are kind of hard to argue at this point. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. Tom Brady's the GOAT. Peyton right there. So I'll go Brady, Peyton, Brees, Rodgers, Mahomes, Favre, Big Ben, Warner, Eli, Russ. And you said honorable mention. I mean, there's so many guys just off the top of your head. I mean, Steve McNair, one of the all-time greats. Let me ask you this. I mean, Donovan McNabb. I think Matt Ryan. I think Cam, Matt Ryan and Cam are interesting because, Ben, you're talking about trips to the Super Bowl for franchises that haven't been historically, elite, and MVPs. How would you kind of weigh and consider Matt Ryan and Cam with a list like this?
I mean, when you talk about the 2000s, BJ, you got to look at what both of those guys had to do. Both of those guys had to elevate franchises that weren't storied at all. I mean, Carolina was an expansion team at one point. And I say this. One, can you talk about the quarterback position without mentioning Cam Newton? Nope. You really, really can't. Can you talk about the Atlanta Falcons franchise without mentioning Matty Ice? Nope. And the one thing that both of those guys had in common, they both made you want to watch. Let's face it. You have no reason to watch Carolina if Cam Newton isn't there. And I will say this, BJ. Sometimes the best thing you can do is get them there. The best team is going to win the Super Bowl, not the best player in the league. Cam Newton was the best player in the league that year. You talk about Eli never losing to Tom Brady, but one of those losers is Matty Ice. I mean, and it wasn't because of him, by the way. It was because, I don't know, Kyle Shanahan, won't y'all check out of that play, man. One possession led to the win. But yeah, I think a lot of these guys, BJ, top 15 lists. I think I got Cam, Matty Ice in it. But the difference was Super Bowls. You know, it's something to say when you got 2 and 3 Super Bowls. But look, the best on this list, if I'm being honest, like the straight best, is probably Drew Brees because nobody saw that. Nobody. He's breaking. BJ, remember when 30,000 yards or 40,000 yards was a Hall of Fame career? Now we're talking about 50 and 60 and 70. So Drew Brees, man, might be the best of them all, BJ, because Tom Brady, that's probably why he even played a little longer. He wanted all the records. Unfortunately, there was a guy in his division who he was chasing. He's caught him now, but Drew Brees might be the best of them all. No regular season MVPs, but I still think put up numbers that's only a certain guy, only maybe, a handful of guys ever even gonna sniff.
Tweet at us at Pigskin Radio. Interesting to think about, but could we see Pat Mahomes move up that list the next couple of weeks? We'll come back. Jeff Biggs will join us from Southern California, 97.1 KNX News. We'll talk about the Rams. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Glad to have you back here with us. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. BJ Bennett alongside Ben Troop. Conference championship games this weekend, including in the NFC. You're talking about a fantastic matchup, especially defensively with LA and San Francisco. And with us now to talk about that matchup, talk about the Rams from KNX News 97.1 Southern California, Compass Media Net, and Sports Map Radio, Jeff Biggs. Jeff, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing great, and it is great to be on with you guys, especially my man Ben Troop.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. Thank you so much for making time. And tell us about this Rams team. The talent is there. The roster is there. Was this the expectation all along, or not only this, but getting to the next game, getting to the Super Bowl and winning it with this team?
I would love to say yes as a lifelong Rams fan going back to my childhood, but the truthful answer would be no. I was very excited when the Rams made the moves that they made, bringing in Von Miller and Odell Beckham Jr., but as Ben can attest, it is a process, and wasn't really sure how things were going to go with this team heading into the playoffs, especially the way they lost the regular season finale at home against the 49ers, blowing that 17-0 lead. But I think winning the division, ending the regular season marathon, and then going into the postseason with a clean slate, having that Monday night game at home really energized this team. And to Sean McVay's credit, say what you will about his play calling and different things over the course of the regular season, he brought everything to a new level in that Monday night playoff win over Arizona. Obviously, having everybody back and healthy is a big part of it, but it just seemed like the offense kicked into another gear in that win over the Cardinals. And I think they're on a different track right now, to answer your question. So I think they're playing at a different level. I think the stars on the team, because LA is a star town, I think the stars on that team feel energized, and I think they're ready to roll. Now, I know they blew the game last week against the Bucs, but I mean they should have blown that team out, and they just had some bad turnovers, but they were rolling. I mean, that game should have been over at halftime. And so we'll see. I think they have the firepower. I think Matthew Stafford is at a different level now. I think a lot of the things that we saw in him just a few weeks ago are gone. I think, like I said, Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham Jr. are at a different level. And this Rams defense has really found something on that D-line.
Jeff, when you think about a guy like Von Miller, who was obviously at the end of his career, but you look at the impact plays that he made against Tampa, talk about his emergence late. I know that when the trade first happened, people was kind of scratching their head saying, does he have anything left? But he seems to be playing his best football at the right time.
He really does. I mean, he looks like vintage Vaughn. No other way to say it. He's really found a nice comfort zone, a comfort spot there. And as I said, that D line, I think they really needed to kind of get in sync and kind of get into a groove, of course, led by Aaron Donald. And with Vaughn and Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd, the Rams linebacker core maybe not as strong as it's been in years past. And they've had some injuries that they've dealt with in the secondary. Of course, they do have Jalen Ramsey. But, yeah, with Vaughn and that Rams defense, they have really, really found a way to seal the edge and get pressure. And so that's going to be the interesting thing, because clearly, the 49ers, they want to run the ball and run the clock and put together, 15, 17 play drives, keep the Rams offense off the field. Because if not, if the Rams get off to a quick start at home and put some points on the board, then you're going to put the ball in Jimmy G's hands. And I don't think Kyle Shanahan wants to do that. So it's going to be interesting. I know everybody keeps saying, well, the Niners have beaten the Rams 6 straight times and look at that loss. But again, I think the Niners, that win over Green Bay was huge, but I think the Rams are a different team than a couple weeks ago also.
We're chatting with Jeff Biggs here on 3 and Out, and Matt Stafford. You're talking about a guy that has 50,000 career passing yards, now has some playoff success, including a win over Brady head-to-head. If he wins the Super Bowl, and we've talked about this on our show, and continues to play well and produce, the stats are going to come, would a Super Bowl potentially elevate him into the Hall of Fame discussion in your mind?
I think so. I think so. I don't think he's a lock by any means, but I think without a doubt that Super Bowl win and this postseason run, if he's able to do that, would put him on the radar. But still a ways to go. And I mean, he's had some great numbers over his career, and I'm curious to see how he comes out on Sunday. And I'm curious to see how long he stays in LA and how long he wants to keep playing for. But I've been very impressed there. You know, you look back at the Rams regular season and you think, okay, 12-5. I mean, how can you nitpick? And when he's on, I mean, when he's playing well, if you watch every game, when he's on and he's playing well, the good, excellent Matt Stafford is I mean, he's great. I mean, he's really, really, really awesome. Some of the throws that he makes, but then in the losses, when he had those pick sixes and just some bad throws, some of them they drive you crazy. And I'm sure you can make that argument for any quarterback when they have bad moments, they don't look good. But I've been really, really impressed. Wasn't sure, like I said, I wasn't sure how this team was going to respond after losing that regular season finale the way that they did. But to their credit, they've looked really, really strong the last couple weeks.
Jeff, I mean, when I think about this game, I think about the battle of the minds. I mean, when Kyle Shanahan first goes over to San Francisco, I mean, the hot shot offensive coordinator coming from Atlanta, and nobody could figure out this running game that he had. And then a couple of years ago, if you even knew Sean McVay, you was getting head coaching opportunities, Kip Kingsbury, those type guys. When you think about these two young guys, still very young, I think Sean McVay is in his early 30s. Is how much of this is a showcase for other guys, like a Byron Leftwich, guys who they're pretty well versed when you talk about offensive football. How much could, maybe these two guys this weekend kind of propel other guys to get more looks than maybe they wouldn't have gotten in the past?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ben. I think without a doubt, I think, for example, Raheem Morris, the Rams defensive coordinator, so much has been made about Kyle Shanahan versus Sean McVay, but we're going to see on Sunday, really, it's going to be about Kyle Shanahan going up against Raheem Morris and that Rams defense, and how they respond to what the 49ers are going to do with their running game and what wrinkles they try to throw at the Rams defense. And of course, the big X factor, who's just a freak, is Deebo Samuel. So that's going to be one part of it. I think with the Chiefs and the Bengals and what they're going to do on Sunday, we know about Eric Bieniemy, and it's going to be interesting to see what kind of a shootout that ends up to be in Kansas City and what adjustments we see in that game after their meeting a few weeks ago. So I can't wait. It's going to be a great weekend, and I hope I hope that all of the young coaches that have been doing a great job, I hope they get their opportunities as well, for sure.
We're chatting with Jeff Biggs, KNX News 97.1 in Southern California, Compass Media Net, and Sports Map Radio as well. And when you look at Sunday, is it as simple as, look, LA's got the weapons? You're talking about Odell, Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford. I mean, if they are productive, there's no way San Francisco can keep up. I mean, is this game as simple as that?
It sure feels that way. That's a great question. It's a fair question. I think at this stage with the NFL's Final Four, it really, and Ben can talk about these big game moments better than I can, but I think it comes down to executing on the field. We know what all four teams can do, what their strengths and what their weaknesses are. It just comes down to who can step up on the big stage. I think clearly on paper, it appears, not appears, I mean, clearly you'd have to say the Rams have the firepower, and the fact that they jumped out to a 17-0 lead over the Niners in that game a couple weeks ago, I think kind of lends to that. You look at last week in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers probably should have put that team away, and they didn't in the first half and just kind of let the Niners hang around, and then they eventually stole the game with their special teams. I don't think that's going to happen. Like I said, I think this Rams team has kind of turned a corner, and I think they're going to be really, really energized. I don't think there's going to be as many 49er fans at SoFi Stadium this weekend as there were a couple weeks ago as well. So I think everything is favoring and shaping up well for the Rams to get it done and to make it back to the Super Bowl. The only X factor is I always say I call the NFL the no favorites league. It's better to be an underdog than a favorite. It seems like in this league, as we've seen. Ask Aaron Rodgers that, but no. But I think if the Rams don't beat themselves, they should be okay. I really do think that. But the Niners, say, to their credit, they've been tough. They run like nobody else in the NFL, and with their defensive line the way they're playing right now. We talked about the Rams D line. I mean, Eric Armstead is a big man, and they're playing at a different level too. So I think it should be a great game.
Jeff, a guy from our neck of the woods, gonna get a chance to make his his playoff debut, even if it is in the NFC Championship game. Ernest Jones, a guy out of South Carolina, big time young linebacker that can go out there and run sideline to sideline. You talk about Floyd and company, and Aaron Donald. You talk about Jalen Ramsey in the back end. To have a young guy like that hits everything moving, how big of a boost does he add to an already star-studded defense?
Oh yeah, he's been great. I mean, he was one of my favorites of this season, just coming out the way that he did and taking a spot in the starting lineup. In fact, they made a trade early in the season, getting rid of one of their better linebackers. Forgive me, I'm drawing a total blank, but they made a trade to promote Ernest into the starting lineup. So he's been great, and it's funny because the 49ers on their side of the ball, they have Fred Warner, but they have a young linebacker who Alziz Al-Shair, and I might be butchering his name. I apologize, but I mean, this guy. I mean, you talk these young linebackers with that kind of speed. I mean, these guys are like you said. I mean, they're all over the place. I mean, they're just like every play, they're right there. Like they get it seems like they get 15, 20 tackles a game, which is, I'm exaggerating, but yeah, I think that's kind of where GMs are kind of looking now, is to get these young, fast, stud, strong linebackers that can really, really give your defense a jolt of speed, to help with the run game and just help to get to the ball and blow up plays in the backfield. But yeah, Ernest has been great, and he's been a little nicked up. I hope he's okay, and like I said, hopefully he'll be able to continue playing strong and have a big game on Sunday.
Jeff Biggs, KNX News, 97.1 in Southern California, Compass Media Net, and Sports Map Radio, kind enough to join us. A very busy week. Jeff, thanks so much, and enjoy the games this weekend.
Hey, you two guys, really blessed to be on with you. Thank you so much, and hope we get to do it again. But, enjoy the game Sunday as well. Thank you.
That's Jeff Biggs from out in Southern California. And, yeah, Ernest Jones healthy. Going to see him out there. Going to be great. The former Ware County Gator playing a big role for the Rams. We'll come back with more 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Glad to have you here with us. 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network on a Friday afternoon. BJ Bennett alongside Ben Troop, and Ben, of course, in Blackshear on Sunday. They're going to have the parade, the Champions Parade, honoring the 2020 Pierce County football team that won the state championship, and Georgia quarterback Stetson Bennett parade for him as well. So looking forward to that on Sunday. Should be a great time.
It should be, BJ. And listen, congratulations. I know the Pierce County won 2 years ago. I think, BJ, they wasn't able to celebrate it. You think about a guy like Stetson Bennett, who grew up his whole life a Georgia Bulldog fan. He said, look, I never, ever won anything in his life to know that the first thing he ever won is a national championship for Georgia. You cannot write a script better than that. Shout out to Stetson Bennett and the entire 2021 Georgia Bulldog team. But, yes, he and many other champions will be honored on Sunday.
Stetson Bennett, legend. I mean, yeah, you have that. Well, we've heard multiple Georgia beat writers say, look, you're never going to have to buy a meal, whatever, for the rest of your life. And a guy that finished in the national championship game, but yeah, just great. I mean, you win a championship, you're a legend. And great to see Stetson Bennett honored, the football team honored, various champions going to be honored, but looking forward to that. That's going to be Sunday at 2:00. Stetson Bennett on the list. You always talk about, are you on the list? On the list, right?
On the list for life, BJ. I mean, whether it's in Southeast Georgia, whether it's up there in Athens. So, yes, he's on the list for life. Stetson Bennett, man, you did it your way. Sir, take a bow. You earned it.
And I believe that's coming up, again, Sunday at 2:00. That's start time for that Champions Parade in Blackshear. Should be a lot of fun, and congratulations. Looking forward to that event coming up this weekend. BJ Bennett, Ben Troop here with you. It is 3 and Out. We are all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live on the web, ESPNcoastal.com. We're on the ESPN app as well. It is 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. BJ Bennett, Ben Troop. Hope you're having a good Friday afternoon. The conference championship games this weekend. Obviously, we will know who's going to be in the Super Bowl. And Ben, your keys to the games I'm interested to get, because I think compelling storylines, fascinating matchups. You may feel like there's a favorite in each division, but as Jeff Biggs said, I mean, NFL, no favorite leagues. I mean, how do you get a feel for who has the momentum? So let's jump right in. Yeah, both games on Sunday. Let's start in the NFC. LA and San Francisco. When you look at this matchup, what are the keys to the game on Sunday?
The key to the game for the Rams is going to be you got to jump out on the 49ers early. The 49ers are not a team that's built to come back on anybody. And if you are the San Francisco team, you got to be able to keep Stafford and those guys at bay. You got to play the same way you played up there in frigid Green Bay. And if you are Kyle Shanahan, look, it's Kyle Shanahan first. Raheem Morris, you got to be able to say, look, man, I got to be able to put up a game plan for Deebo Samuel. We know that Deebo Samuel is going to be moved all around, but BJ, that's what he's there for. He's a first-team all-pro receiver who also can run the football. He's a Jack of many trades. Obviously, we go back, at this time with South Carolina. So if you are the Rams, find a way to jump on San Francisco early. And if you are the 49ers, Bosa and those guys on defense, find a way to get a turnover, get Deebo Samuels going early, and try to stabilize the game with that run game.
I mean, something Jeff Biggs talked about, Ben, if you're San Francisco and offensively you are not built to be in a 38-35 game. I mean, you can score when you need to. We've seen that at times, but this is not a team like the Chiefs, like the Bengals, like the Rams that is built to be in a high-scoring game. If this ends up being a high-scoring game, does it come down to Deebo Samuel? I mean, do you get him he's your best player. Is this a game where you run him 10 times, you throw him 10 balls and say, we're getting you 20 touches to try to keep up with the Rams?
No, I would go with George Kittle. I think George Kittle is a guy you could definitely lean on. I think, BJ, when you think about how great of a player George Kittle is, he makes plays in the run game with his blocking, and obviously he's an incredible receiver. Deebo is going to get a lot of attention, a.k.a. a guy by the name of Jalen Ramsey. That's like having 3 people on you. George Kittle is a mismatch nightmare. There's nobody on that defense, and I know that we talked about Ernest Jones earlier. Ernest Jones, if his welcome to the NFL moment in the playoffs is going to be George Kittle, good luck with that. But George Kittle, Deebo, find a way to get those guys involved. I think George Kittle should have a bigger impact than Deebo this weekend.
San Francisco's defense has been spectacular. D'Amico Ryans has had incredible game plans. How do you slow down Matt Stafford, Odell, Cooper Kupp, Cam Akers? How do you slow down this offense?
I cannot, and you should not ever let Cooper Kupp get a free release. He is the guy that can hurt you the worst. You go back, BJ, to the game winning drive for the Rams. What they did, they had single coverage with Cooper Kupp and Antoine Winfield Jr. Listen, Antoine Winfield Jr. and they were the safety in the league that's going to cover Cooper Kupp one-on-one. So for me, find a way to you're going to have to play a safety over the top when it comes to Cooper Kupp. I know it's crazy. You're going to have to pick your poison. Play over the top with Odell as well as over the top with Cooper Kupp. Sacrifice a player for Cooper Kupp because I will force guys like Van Jefferson, Sony Michel, Cam Akers to beat me. It can't be Cooper Kupp, can't be Odell Beckham Jr.
Talking keys to the game this weekend, the games with Ben Troop on Sundays. You have the AFC, the NFC championship games. Jimmy Garoppolo is the key to stabilizing, I guess, his rhythm. Like you mentioned, George Kittle. Look, you have playmakers. You might have to push the ball downfield. I know he missed the throw late, of course, in the Super Bowl against Kansas City, but is it work the seams with George Kittle?
It is working the seams, BJ. It's taking what the defense gives you. When you got Von Miller, you talk about Floyd, and you talk about Aaron Donald, you talk about Jalen Ramsey going to be some tight windows. Take chances when they're there, right? Take some chances. George Kittle and Deebo and those guys. Take some chances, Jimmy Garoppolo, when it's there, BJ. But if it's not there, sometimes the best play is no play. Throw it away, live to play another down. Because if you try to force something and Jalen Ramsey and those guys poke that ball out, and you talk about creating turnovers and creating points out of it, that could make it a long day for Jimmy Garoppolo. Just like when the Rams played Tampa, only reason why the Tampa got back in the game, turnovers. The same way when San Francisco played Dallas, Dallas got back in the game with Jimmy Garoppolo, started throwing picks. Do not throw the ball to the other team.
Over in the AFC, you have the heavy favorites, Kansas City against suddenly Cincinnati knocking on the door of the Super Bowl. Just got their first road playoff win ever. When you look at this matchup, really fascinating. What's the biggest key?
It's going to be mentality. Kansas City understands that all the pressure is on them, trying to get back to their third straight Super Bowl. BJ, I mean, Kansas City is supposed to have the better quarterback, which they do. They're supposed to have the better team all around. But it's something about them Cincinnati Bengals, right? They playing with confidence, they playing with swag, they playing with a mentality, BJ, that we don't deserve to be here. We earned our way here. And I think the thing about Joe Burrow is, can Joe Burrow put on his best Josh Allen impersonation, because Josh Allen outplayed Patrick Mahomes a week ago. They just came up short. So if you are Kansas City, you got to keep that Cincinnati offense off the field, because Chase, Higgins, Mixon, those guys can hurt you, BJ. And can they find a way to extend drives? But if you are Chris Jones and those guys, if you are Frank Clark, if you saw the tape with Tennessee, you should live in the backfield this weekend. I mean, if you think Cincinnati gonna be able to give up 9 sacks and come out with a win this week, but also use your weapon though. And I think the biggest weapon on Cincinnati is not the offense, not the defense. It's Evan McPherson. He gets in range. You're gonna have to try to come away with points.
I know that's your guy. He's been perfect. And offensively, we know what Cincinnati can do. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, just been incredible. But how does Cincinnati, is there a way to scheme better protection? Is there a way to maintain your offensive potential in terms of the big plays, letting routes develop, but also not having Joe Burrow get hit 15 times in a game? I mean, 9 sacks, Ben, is relatively unheard of, especially for a winning team. You have Chris Jones. I mean, Kansas City's definitely going to attack. What can you do to find a balance between protecting Joe Burrow but not changing what we do in terms of attacking downfield?
Running the football better. You're going to have to establish the run on this weekend, because that speeds the game up, the quick passing game. I mean, BJ, people talk about Jamar Chase, his first play for scrimmage with 57 yards. Well, that was just a quick hit. You just threw it out to him and let him go out there and make a play. Joe Burrow won't make it 4 quarters if they have to go through what he went through at Tennessee. But the biggest thing is coming away with points. Extended drives. You want Patrick Mahomes to be on the sideline as much as possible, BJ, because Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, DeMarcus Robinson and company, those guys can light a scoreboard up. So for Cincinnati, find a way to keep Joe Burrow clean. Find a way to get the ball out quick. Find a way to establish the run, and hopefully that defense that defense in Cincinnati can find a way to get you a couple of extra drives. I don't know if it's going to help, but it's definitely going to give you a better opportunity to stay in this game.
Talking championship game keys, and on the other side, look, you talk about Travis Kelce all the time. I know you guys are friends, hanging out at the Pro Bowl not long ago. But what can you do defensively if you're Cincinnati? Because it seems like, and you go back to the win against Buffalo, whenever Kansas City needs a play, Mahomes has playmakers everywhere. Hill as good as it gets, but you are going to Kelce, and it seems unstoppable. I mean, it's so simple. It's a 8-yard out. It's 12 yards and in down the field. How do you slow down? What can Cincinnati do to slow down Travis Kelce?
Man, you're gonna have to sacrifice a player, BJ, and you got to be willing. You got to treat Travis Kelce how you treat a dominant pass rusher. You got to chip him. You got to disrupt him off the line, because if he's coming off the line with free releases, just like a Cooper Kupp, that's a recipe for disaster. And I know that I said, listen, George Kittle might be the best all-around tight end as far as like his blocking. The best tight end in the league is Travis Kelce. And that's no disrespect to Darren Wallace, no disrespect to Mark Andrews, who was first team All-Pro this year, BJ. But yes, when Kansas City needed to play, last week they went to Travis Kelce. And the guy that makes that offense go is Travis Kelce. So you got to find a way to slow him down, and you got to find a way to keep him out the end zone, because, BJ, what he really does, he affects the scoreboard, not the box score, but the scoreboard. So, yes, find a way to chip him, disrupt him, frustrate him, and if you can find a way to do that for 4 quarters, then you got to hope to God that Tyreek Hill don't burn you over the top.
I've always enjoyed your breakdown of games like this, where you have a heavy favorite and a team that's maybe an underdog, because you always ask the question, the underdog, are you confident? Are you confident, or are you convinced? There's a difference. I think a lot of teams that maybe haven't been there before, or are a young team, they take the field and they're confident. They think they can win, but do you know you can win? I think that manifests itself in the key moments of games. Kansas City at home, toughest place to play in the league, Arrowhead. You're talking about Pat Mahomes, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time already, an unstoppable offense. Joe Burrow is a rising star, Jamar Chase, but I don't know that you have 5, 6, 7 household names on this Cincinnati team. Defensively, not a lot of superstar power. In your mind, are the Bengals convinced they can win this game this weekend?
Absolutely, and it starts with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, BJ plays with that moxie, plays with plays with a swagger to where it resonates with the rest of his team. He says, "Look, man, we ain't the Bengals of old. We breaking records. We won the first ever home road playoff game in Cincinnati Bengals history. We took down the number 1 seed in the AFC a week later. We listen without even having our best game. But BJ, you always ask the question." If Cincinnati plays their best game and Kansas City plays their best game, who wins? I don't know. Because Cincinnati, they can light up a scoreboard as well. I think the no-name Cincinnati defense still can go out there and make plays. So I do think they are playing, BJ convinced. And at the end of the day, they playing with a level of who y'all disrespecting, man. Like, we one of the last 4 teams standing. So I mean, I do know, BJ, you come of age and you become superstars in the postseason. I think that Joe Burrow is already a superstar. Jamar Chase, I think, needs 20-something yards. I mean, to break the rookie receiver. I think Isaac Bruce has the rookie receiving record as far as in the playoffs. He needs like 20-something yards. But I don't think Cincinnati wants records. I think they break them. Cincinnati wants it all. And if Kansas City is in their way, I think it's going to be a more compelling game than people give it credit for.
End of the day, who wins this weekend? Who do we see play in the Super Bowl?
I just think Eric Bieniemy and what he's got going with Patrick Mahomes the last 4 years can't be stopped. You talk about Travis Kelce, talk about Tyreek Hill, you talk about Robinson, you talk about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, just a piece around Pat Mahomes. These guys, when they click in, BJ, they very, very hard to stop. Cincinnati's been one of the best feel-good stories you're going to ever see, and I think they're going to be good for years to come. But if Josh Allen and company can't beat Kansas City, I don't see Cincinnati doing it. I got Kansas City making it back to the Super Bowl for the 3rd straight year, and obviously over in the NFC side, listen, I owe Matthew Stafford an apology. I owe Sean McVay an apology. Sean McVay said, "You give me the right quarterback and watch what this offense does." And he added Odell Beckham Jr. I think it's going to be, BJ. At the end of the day, it's going to be in Kansas City, versus the Rams. And dude, you talk about star power: Tyreek Hill, Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Cooper Kupp. I mean, it's going to be stars all over the field. But I think them Rams get to do their best Tampa Bay impression and host a Super Bowl. Problem is, they get a Kansas City team they're trying to redeem themselves from what happened last year.
I think it's Chiefs and Rams too. I'll go with you. I think Kevin, when he made his picks before he left earlier today, same thing. So that, of course, means it will be Bengals and 49ers in the Super Bowl coming up in a few weeks. BJ Bennett, Ben Troop, glad to be here with you. We'll come back with more 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network.